Well, yeah, I'll let you introduce it.
Do you want to introduce this? Okay. So this is a little scuffed, but for the most part, it's Shadow Complex Remastered for the personal computer, playing on the Steam version. We're doing New Game Plus, 100% insane. Basically all the best bells and whistles you could get out of a category. It's going to take about an hour. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to go very fast, and time starts in here in a quick countdown if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, start.
It is started. All right. I am actually going to stay on for commentary because I have played this game, and I am decently knowledgeable. I've watched you do a lot of these runs, so...
Yeah. So this is the prologue. We're currently playing as Dallas. If anyone's played Symphony of the Night, this is... I don't know if it's quite a nod to that. Oh, we're actually... this is going to take a little longer than normal. Mistimed a missile shot there, but basically it's trying to show off all the cool secondary weapons and one of the late game guns that you can get. The Vice President just died. He blew up off screen. So don't worry about it. Now we meet Jason and Claire. So we'll talk about the Vice President later. Maybe not.
Okay, now we meet these two, and they're gone.
Yeah, so Jason and Claire, actually, Cece, I think you did a really good job explaining sort of their relationship in the big story beat. Do you want to tell me what you said the other day?
Yeah, sure. So our story follows Jason and his new bitch Claire as they go in on their on a date to go hiking in the mountains, and then she gets kidnapped.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what you just saw. And
I should come back here later.
we just took a really nice look at a map. It's there are a couple of those scattered throughout the game. If you interact with them, we won't be. That's the only cutscene that requires it. They print out parts of the map. There are a couple things in this game that we'll be overlooking because we're a certain level or we just want to go fast. That's one of them. If you look in the bottom right, you'll notice that I'm actually level 153. That comes with a few perks that we'll be discussing later on, but one of them is infinite sub-weapons, for example. So infinite foam, missiles, grenades. The hookshot is already infinite. These are the New Game Plus perks that you get access to by collecting all the gold bars in the game. They added the armor, which you might think is, you know, pretty cool because it protects you and it's nice and shiny, but it actually has no damage debuffs. And because we're on the insane difficulty, everything in this game can kill you very quickly, at least for the first 20 minutes. We're not tanky at all. This run could... I won't say it'll die, because I'm really hoping I won't let it, but it's very easy for 3 or 4 people to look at you and just mow you down within a second. There are a couple times in this run where we might actually die. That's another map, for example. Probably should have mentioned this earlier. That cutscene when we grabbed the pistol right before we grabbed all these guns was actually Claire getting... what's the PC way of saying your face beaten down?
She's definitely getting mugged and assaulted.
Aggressively engaged with. And there's a bit of dialogue there. We're introduced to the voice of the big bad guy, Lucius. He's the director of the... I forgot some of the details, but it's the New Resistance or something. They're a bunch of rebels. That's all these grunts you're seeing and their symbols. There's the save symbol.
Rebel.
It's... Yeah. So she's being taken to a helipad right now in the game to be interrogated by Dr. Sweets, which is a room that we'll be seeing later on. We're about to grab our first weapon of the sub-weapon of the game, grenades. This is going to open up a lot of these green doors that you're seeing over here. If you want to talk a little bit about some of the collectibles that we'll be grabbing.
Yeah, so this is a Metroidvania game, right? So this is a game where it's kind of like Metroid style, where you get a bunch of upgrades, get a bunch of items and things like that, and that sort of lets you progress and go through the world all different. So there's a whole bunch of things you got to collect, specifically grenade upgrades. You're going to get missile upgrades later. There's a thing called foam. We'll explain that later. You also get pass keys. You're going to need all the pass keys to unlock something later on. There's also gold bars, which is gold armor, if I'm not mistaken.
You got it. Yeah, they also give you the gold guns. That was, this game came out in 2009 originally for the 360 arcade. It was actually really popular. It sold, I think, 200,000 units in a week, which for 2009 was a big deal. There was Claire being taken over to the helipad. Again, in the background, for those of you very astute watchers, you'll notice that we kind of just lost 250 health, kind of all at once, from 2 people in less than a second. That's a pretty good example of how spongy we are. We're going to be doing a pretty cool trick that abuses the 2.5D nature of the game. If you're paying attention, you'll see a little purple grate there. We would normally use foam to get that, but by abusing Jason's orientation, we can slide in front of it using a trick called a Z slide. Big shout outs to Greenlink and the community that helped find this game. Big shout outs to AJ Firecracker and Gorm2K who helped teach me so much about this stuff. I'll be using basically all of their terminology, but this gives us access to foam pretty early on, which is useful for all these purple items, so those vents and these sensor bars. We're going to use another background manipulation to clip behind that, and just helps us get through some crawling sections, and we'll be doing a very similar Z slide. This one, hopefully with keyboard and mouse, it's a little bit harder, but I kind of want to look cool, so I'm going to go for it.
Yeah,
Nice.
Z slides are one of the coolest things about this. That's the
For
idea
sure.
that like literally, because it's 2.5D, there's no collision like in the background or the foreground. Not really. So it's like you can just like slide around and just go through walls.
Yeah,
like going,
and it's really
like, going
cool.
closer. Yeah.
They make a lot of good use out of it. So there we take a reload. If you're paying attention, you might have noticed that I currently have infinite. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna reload there. Sometimes Jason doesn't grab the ledge. I don't really understand his relationship with the collision of the world. No runner really gets it. It's kind of like Link in Ocarina of Time. Sometimes he just does what he wants. But we take a reload there in order to get access to our level, I think it's 30 and up, you start getting infinite secondary weapons. But it's really useful for fights like these where you want to blow up everyone and still have stuff left over. And they actually advertise this a lot. You can use foam to go pretty much wherever you want. We're going to be doing that here now to get past kind of a tedious little laser puzzle thing.
By the way, well, fuck, I actually forgot what I was just gonna say.
By the way,
can you explain what the difference is between New Game Plus and normal runs, or like some of the benefits of playing on New Game Plus?
So the primary one is this nice shiny gold drip and all the gold guns that you have access to. You also get to maintain the same level benefits that you would normally not receive from Fresh File. I'm going to take a safety save and grab this health because there's a somewhat dangerous section up ahead. Oh, that was a really good time for a level up, so you actually get all your health back during all that.
Short bursts only, but I'm getting around faster.
So,
Yeah, so there's like a consistent level system that goes on because you're playing on an Epic account or whatever, so it keeps track of all your playthroughs. So whenever you start a new file, it just automatically loads from your account level. So it's actually kind of difficult to play from a fresh file.
yeah, especially on Insane. You are they give you some kind of miscellaneous upgrades like accuracy and I think some very little damage resistance, but by the time you rack them up, it really starts to add up and it makes this category more viable. I'm not saying that you can't get into the game, you know, on something if you're just starting out. It's really easy to get this stuff early on, and there are ways to kind of exploit it, but I did most of my leveling on my... This game came out in 2016, this remastered version, on the Epic Game Store back when it had a tab dedicated to Shadow Complex before Fortnite came out. I think Fortnite had just come out. And it was announced during Greenlink's 2016 AGDQ run. It was really, really cool. Brad Cummings, the former community manager, he went somewhere else recently. He was there to announce its free weekend for people who wanted to pick up the game and experience it or maybe run it. I actually made 1 or 2 accounts so I could have access to fresh file stuff. That was something that I did on the 360 arcade. I would make new profiles on the console just so I could start the game over without the level up boosts. But anyway, to round up that whole thought, these 150 levels are just from attempts on the Steam version, which has a couple of minor differences that aren't really worth articulating. So that's my big blurb about some of the history of this game. We're coming up on our second mini-boss fight. It's a very similar spider mech, but this one has a potential quick kill strategy. Post 1 in chat if you know what Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube is.
Press 1 in chat, everything. If you're a fiend for Super Smash Bros. Melee, by all means, please.
So that's called a multi-shine. It's a really cool quick kill. It's not actually called a multi-shine, but I like to call it. It's the fastest way to kill this boss, who is very inconsistent otherwise. It's personally one of my favorite strats in the game. I think it's really cool. It's as close to anime as you can get because you're doing this massive ground pound thing, dozens of them in less than a second. Really happy I got that. We're still actually very squishy right now, so it's also good for later on in some of these difficult sections where you're just walking into rooms full of enemies who can all look at you at the same time, like right now. And one guy can 2-tap you and take off 100 of your health. So.
It ain't easy being cheesy.
Yeah. Some overworld movement here. Not too much going on, but you can appreciate some of the nuances of it. We haven't actually discussed the inherent double jump. If you notice, I'm going a little bit higher than I would for a normal jump there. It's AJ Firecracker, somebody I shouted out before, really knowledgeable guy, who I forgot to ping. I forgot to ping that Discord to tell them that I was live. I hope they see.
I'll do it real quick.
Thank you.
Pretty sure I'm still in there.
You definitely are. The TLDR of his explanation is you can jump twice so you don't have weird movement. It's for... Man, he does such a better job explaining it. But basically, if you were landing on something and you wanted to be able to move again, it just makes it easier to bunny hop. I'm butchering this. I'm sure he could do a better job, but the end all is that you can jump 3 times by the time you have a jetpack in the air, and we use that throughout the run just to get around a bit. This is unfortunately one of the more inconsistent parts, but there's luckily a save room right here. So we're going to do some really precise jumps that I struggle to do while talking. And actually, how familiar are you with this roof section?
Me personally, I'm a little familiar. I had to try to do some of these tricks. Whenever I did, I think it was no major glitches or something? No? Wait, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you did. That's the one where you don't use foam, which is conveniently what we're using here to sort of break the overworld movement. You're not supposed to be getting this item until 2 or 3 upgrades later. You get jet boots in this game, which gives you a total of 4 jumps, and I think 5 if you're like, really good. You can do this sliding thing beforehand to give you the extra velocity of a jump, so it's sort of like 4.5. You can jump a lot in this game is what I'm getting at. So we just went down a really big elevator. We're on our way to grab the rest of the V5 armor, which is really just a damage reduction in the game, and unfortunately you don't get to see any difference on Jason's outfit because it just applies the armor texture to him right away, but we'll take 10% less damage.
Yeah, that armor is like canonically in the game that you need the pass keys to get through these orange doors, but it's supposed to be like this super armor they're developing so that they can like take over the government or something.
Yeah, and if we had watched those cutscenes in the prologue, oh, we can die here, by the way. This is another spot where it's really easy to get nuked. Okay. And if you stand in the doorway here, they don't notice you, which is very convenient. But yeah, you nailed it. The armor is sort of the key to the whole resistance, and there are a couple mini-bosses, most of which we'll be skipping, that use bigger versions of this armor. This is a precise jump that uses that double jump thing I was talking about before. It's not the most consistent thing in the world, but to be honest with you, I'm just not the best at this, so it sometimes takes me a couple tries. There we get a wall kick. We're doing it with the climbing gear that we grabbed pretty much at the beginning of the game, by the way. Here's a quick sort of... It's not quite a mini-boss fight, because it's kind of just 4 heavies, and since we have the best gun in the game, it goes by really fast. Okay, fight's over.
What a fight.
Yeah. Normally takes a while. You have a little pistol there, or maybe a small submachine gun. So it's usually really hard. Doing some collection here, and we'll be introduced to one of my favorite mechanics in the whole game. It really inspires a lot of intrigue is the word I'll use for it. Foam is a really interesting thing. It's a really inconsistent thing, except for when it isn't, and you can use it to go really, really fast. There are 2 types of warps that we use with foam. The first of which is called, I'm going to delay myself a little bit here so it lines up a bit better, is called a thin air warp. It's where you're hanging in thin air and then you warp. It's very useful. It's also not the easiest thing to pin down. These are FPS dependent, so you have to lock things and use other bits of foam. Quick movement into the background here to get around the stairwell.
We just barely talked about it, and Chad's like, "What did you do?"
I warped.
That one still blows my mind. So you're hanging on,
Yeah.
you're hanging on the foam, and it disappears. And the game's like, "Well, where do we put you?" And so it just blasts you off in a direction.
Yeah,
Also,
it's
are you out of bounds right now?
yeah.
You don't explain
We
anything.
just well, it's fine. I feel like, you know, if you're watching, you can figure it out. Real quick, that's a foam bomba turret. It can ruin your whole run. I'll demonstrate what it can actually do there, but basically, if there are 3 or more people in a room in a foam bomba turret, you are just fucked if it hits you. Foam is really powerful in this game. There's
Foam
another
is
thing
busted.
that's also very powerful in this game called friction dampeners. We like to go fast, and Jason does too. So if you've ever played a Super Metroid game, I forget what this is called. Hang on one second, we're going to try and skip this bridge puzzle. That's not to sound vain, but way harder than it looks. Really happy I got that. This is just the super speed mechanic. It lets you go through all of the blue highlighted things in the room. There's a lot to talk about. Sorry if I'm not covering anything. But we're going to do some sort of backtracking collection here for this foam and try to not get nuked by all the people that we ran past. It's actually really lucky that we're only down to 260. Did you get to use friction dampeners much and no major glitches? I actually haven't ran that category because I'm a fraud.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I did use them casually. I did play casually. So
Yeah, this game is really fun, casually, by the way. Not to be that guy, but if you haven't played it, you should definitely go and buy it. It's $15 normally. Sorry. So I missed a little bit of hyperspeed there. This one should work a lot better. Yeah. So those are some, if you highlight them, they look light blue crates. You have to use this to get through it. We're just doing some collection. We've actually already been in this area before. If you recognize, this is the multi-shine room. But some grunts, sorry, some grunts came in and populated it. We're gonna do some cleanup for this area. There's a really cool swag shot where you really thread the needle right there. I like that one a lot. And it's just some more item collection.
one thing you didn't really touch on that I just wanted to point out. So
Yeah.
whenever you grab an item like that, the game slows down and kind of time slows down a little bit when you do
Big
that
time.
to sort of emphasize. But if you do a ground pound like that, you can actually move faster. Like the slow-mo ends sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So something to just keep an eye out whenever you see him do that, whenever you see him grab those upgrades, is he's just doing a ground pound to sort of move faster. So it saves a little bit of time across the run.
Yeah. I should have actually mentioned that during prologue. We time a ground pound with the helicopter exploding. We're gonna grab a little bit of health here to be safe. Try to move that heavy so he's in an animation so I can shoot him. And we're just doing some more overworld collection using our fancy new boots. There's a lot of lag here. The stream is not stuttering on your end. We're just loading in a lot of things at once. Gonna go back up right after I kill this guy to get the faster hyperspeed set up. Okay, so that's really good. There's occasionally some bugginess. You might have noticed that item was really in the background. Okay, that's another example of lag kind of eating your inputs. Sometimes items are in the background and things can be a little finicky. If you see me running over something 2 or 3 times, I promise I know it's there. It's just the game not really working with me. We talked about thinners before, and we're actually about to do another really cool one here where we clip out of bounds and then back in bounds and then into some geometry that forces us back into bounds. So you're sort of going into nothingness and then you clip slightly into this little pillar that puts you back into nothingness and then smushes you onto the other side. It's kind of difficult to explain. If you've ever looked at Unreal Engine 3 files, it would make a little bit more sense. But basically, we're just going on the other side of a wall and it's really fast. I guess we haven't really explained. There was one other pickup that we didn't articulate earlier. It's weapons. So this is the magical shotgun we're being formally introduced to. If you look in the background, you can see it's very similar to what we have here. It's called the Inertial Element. It's very good. And that's just one of the other items that we have to grab. So far, we've technically grabbed pistol. So we've grabbed the very beginning gun and the very ending gun, and we'll get the rest later on. This is called Trap Room. It's going to blow up. Okay. That's Trap Room. We never come back here. Canonically, that's where Lucius talks to you about this girl that you've literally only seen once and haven't rescued yet. Kind of talking smack about how they thought they were so sneaky in doing their espionage. They even put in the subtitles the word espionage in quotes. I think it's italicized because it's so scathing. But Lucius just kind of talks shit to Jason and Claire here.
Sorry. Sorry, you talking? And you're doing all this crazy.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry, that's a column warp. I'm just so used to seeing this stuff, man. Like people they're just not that interested. This is the WSMP 50. It looks like this. On PC, you can swap to any of the guns in the game. Look, we have a lot to talk about. We're gonna keep going. We have another mini boss fight right now. We're in a room where we can die very easily. We're already down to 250 health. Okay. So we're gonna try and time this explosion with the item grab. I'm slow. I guess we could talk about ledge mechanics. Did AJ ever drill his quick release stuff into you?
No.
No? Okay. So there are a lot of ledge grabs that you can do in this game, and if you press up and jump at the same time, you can avoid the ledge grab animation. I'll demonstrate that here in a second after I grab this item. Because there are so many ledges in this game, small movements like that really tend to add up. I'll show you just what I mean right here. So here I am on a ledge, climbing up normally. Imagine doing that, 40, 50 times. But if you press up and jump, you can do that. It's a whole lot faster. There's another small optimization that I'll demonstrate here. So similar ledge movement. If I hold left crawling out of a vent, I have to grab it and be safe. But if I walk backwards, then I can just, peace out. That was a lot more exciting in my head, but,
Hey, listen, you explained it.
Yeah.
This is Vanquish if it was 2D.
Yeah. So this is actually where the run kind of starts to slow down a bit. So if anyone has any questions about Jason Fleming, Claire Duncan, the supposed anthropology student, Lucius non-Malfoy, the big bad with the very black suit, or any of the stuff that you've seen so far. Not the pelvic woo? What's the pelvic woo? Oh, is that super speed? Oh, this is another thin air warp. Oh my gosh, I totally blew it. Okay, so press 1 if you're familiar with programming. In chat, go ahead. This is going to take a while to set up, so we can do this. Great.
Did you level up?
I did, yeah. That just kind of happens. That's actually not super worth talking about. So we're going to do a thin air here where we clip into this foam that we're shooting, and then we do a quick bend around the top, and we ground pound back into existence and talk to that elevator. But the reason why that works and why we go left instead of right is because of else conditions. I can't say confidently that the source code says this, but behaviorally it makes sense. So for those of you unfamiliar with programming, there's something called I totally locked myself out of there. There's something called conditional logic. If this, then that. So normally you would have an if condition, and if things were to go wrong, let's say Jason is inside of foam and we didn't plan for that, then your else condition would be to send him here in this beautiful y=0 looking column. Basically everything is going to try and go to this point. So from here all the way to the left of the map, any thin air or column warp you do will just yeet you way the fuck over here, which is super convenient from getting from this side of the map over here and then backtracking. And when you're on to the right of it, you can go to the left, which is why that whole clip works. Making sure that I grab both items because I was talking too much. And here's another really good example of why column warps like that work. Normally what we just did would send us flying across the map, but because we're in that magical space, it just kind of lets us clip through this. Real quick, Claire was getting taken away to be interrogated by Dr. Sweets. Dr. Sweets is kind of a fucked up person. If you ever watched the cutscene, this is the room where that would have happened. We're going to see it a couple times. I just wanted to point it out. We have another big slow point, so if anyone has any questions, again, we just kind of clipped through a wall there. I don't know if anyone saw that. I have been talking a lot. I'm going to drink some water. We can just enjoy the elevator music.
Rehydrate, bud.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, man. This game is really cool, and I think it's kind of a underrated gem, so to speak. I know everyone says that about every game that they love, but
it's definitely a cliche, but I think it applies here.
Yeah, man. This is like, honestly, if you know how Super Metroid is like a really big Metroidvania speedrun, like I'm surprised this game isn't as big as Super Metroid, because this game is like literally a 2016 version or 2009 version of Super Metroid.
We're gonna
It
lose audio for a
plays
second.
and
I want to get a
feels
quote.
so much.
Yeah, sorry, keep going. Okay, to quote some, okay, I have it here. To quote some old ass commentary, this is Metroid with a man and Nolan North. Do we have a game audio? Or yeah, stream.
I can.
We should be good now. Are we all good? I just paused. I'm moving the mouse around. Can we see it? Yeah, we're good. Sorry, I really wanted to make sure that we had that.
Yeah, we're good.
I had to tab back around. Oh, this is the magical yellow item that you see basically here and nowhere else. It's any bullet in the game can do it.
Huh.
So, fun fact.
Neat.
Yeah. I'm really excited for some of the late game tricks and stuff. This is the intended missile spot. I guess there's a little bit of downtime here in a second. Or I could talk about it now. There's oh, by the way, vertical vent openings, like I just went through, are easily the hardest thing in the whole game. We're gonna clip into some foam, jump into it, and then sort of walk up there. There's a big, what I think is a ceramic capacitor that makes this whole thing work. Or, you know, probably not literally just one component, but basically there's a big battery that makes that big vent work. Gonna do some well-timed jumps here to get around it. So you'll see it more clearly here in a second, but that red shiny thing, if I shot a missile here, it would turn off that big vent. Luckily, we have a crap ton of extra jumps right now. Seriously, just so many pairs of Nike Airs on our feet.
Pairs of Nike.
Yeah, a lot of them. Actually, I'll talk about the routing shenanigans later. This is a really cool trick called a foam glide. I'm gonna power on my controller to set this up so it's a little more consistent, so we can be marathon safe and so we don't have to be here forever. Some interesting properties about foam is you can go anywhere and do what you want. The marketing for this game was actually really cool with how they explained foam, but it lets you push yourself into the foreground and use it to clip areas into areas where you shouldn't. We're actually supposed to be rescuing Claire here, but she's not here, so we're not going to be here either. We just went into the background, went out of bounds, now we're back in bounds. And now we're picking up more items. It's basically a modified Z slide is what we use to get back there. There's a convenient vent and this weird little pocket. Oh, there's some great dialogue here. So remember, perception is reality.
Perception is reality. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Foam stuff. Foam is really cool. It's just, it has so many cool speedrun uses, because you're right, it literally lets you go wherever you want. You can build like bridges and things to help jump gaps, and then you can also use it to do the Z slide stuff. Lets you go in the foreground, and that's just, it's literally the perfect speedrun tool. And we're gonna see a lot of it used throughout the run.
I'm reloading here to see if I can get some funny dialogue about baseball. I triggered a combat sequence out here. Okay, so this guy's supposed to run up and ask if it's the Cubs' year. It was before the Cubs actually won their World Series. Game came out in 2016. Yeah, I'll say it. So we fought a lot of spiders before, right? And they all had missiles and stuff. And, you know, we came, we conquered. It was fine. I really don't think this one's going to be that much different. So let's just, you know, sit here and beat it up. Actually, so this one's a little different. I didn't... Man, dude, I just choked. Sorry. This one's a little different. Not all of them had lasers. That's a little... Sorry, I can't commentate and do this at the same time. I was trying to make a shitty joke about how spiders are different and blah blah blah. Now I'm just zipping around doing foam shit.
So this one in particular is a really slow boss fight. You're supposed to make... he's invulnerable, by the way. He can't take any damage, the boss. So the only way we can beat him is by forcing him to break open up all these pipes, and then drown or flood the room so that it drowns.
Yeah, basically.
But that's slow, and that's dumb. We don't want to do that. Slow and dumb is bad. This is a speed run. So, using the power of foam, we are going to build ourselves an escape out of here. And we're just going to leave this stupid spider behind so we can go live our lives and be free. So, Funyuns is setting this up here. He's going to be setting up a whole bunch of foam things. Okay. Sometimes you build too much foam and you gotta rebuild.
Yeah, it's that was a bad setup. It's there are sort of like 2 or 3 different ways this could go, and I got the worst one, and the backup failed. So we're building a foam wall by the way here because it's literally indestructible and can eat missiles for breakfast. It's really cool and convenient. We're trying to do more Z slides, controller-based ones that go into the foreground. That let me do that, and then I have to do some really specific movement with a really annoying turnaround that doesn't always work. And I'm so mad. Okay. It'll be worth it. You just gotta be patient, I promise.
It will be worth it, yeah. So you're doing this with a controller.
Yeah.
One of the things that's interesting between a keyboard and a controller with the setup is that because you use a controller, you can do like it has more angles, right? It has all of the angles of an analog stick.
Big
Whereas
time.
Keyboard, you really just have WASD and mouse movements, but it's not super consistent. So there are some tricks that just work better using the controller because you can hit more specific angles or just like a more broader stroke of angles.
Yeah.
And so that's going to change your angle a lot. Oh.
Yeah, so real quick, we just kind of clipped into the foreground and then up a big ladder. That's called water spider skip, I think. So I guess WSS. Very inconsistent, very frustrating, very cool. Like it a lot. It's killed a lot of runs for me. I actually had an okay setup the first time. I'm a little frustrated that it took so many attempts, but it's fine. Oh, everyone, take a moment and appreciate this O2 meter while it's there, because it's gone now. We can breathe underwater. Yeah. So that's a scuba mask. I did have a really bad joke about how, you know, we just skipped a really long cutscene and some doctor fills Jason full of gills. This is another column warp here. We're going to use that to go back to the reunion room that I mentioned before. If we don't clip into the wall. Yeah, so we've been here before. Really convenient full health upgrade because this next room is very dangerous. I mentioned a couple times that they use some really interesting stuff with 2.5D in depth. This is another really cool one. So normally, if you were casual, you go here and shoot all these guys and it'd be super crazy and very blurry and very active. But since we're trying to go fast, we don't get to do all that. I just really wanted to show that off. I thought that was really cool when I was a kid. Still do now. You'll notice that I'm still getting nuked. Yeah, because they use foreground and background as left and right, which just blew my mind when I was younger. Because the whole game is basically off limits except for this one axis or these 2 axes. So I still think that's really cool. There's a really interesting part right here where you could die right away if I don't press the right buttons. So we got lucky. If you fly into that fan, that's the word for it, fan, you get nuked immediately no matter what. There's even an item in this game that lets you be invulnerable if you don't move. It would still kill you after that. It's just kind of this really annoying one-shot mechanic. And you notice that we shot that missile grate. Sometimes the water will pull you in during the cutscene and then you can't get on that little catch rock thing. I don't really know how to explain it. Basically, you can die there for really dumb reasons, and I'm glad we didn't. So another cool use of foam, now I'm talking a lot about it, is you can use it to create super speed where you wouldn't normally get it. By suspending yourself in the air, you can build a lot of momentum in small spaces. Quick jump there. It's really useful. We'll be doing that a couple times. This is the foam turret. I slowed down to show it, promise. So that's what you have to look out for. There are a couple of those in the run because we're on insane difficulty and you still take damage while you're enclosed in foam. That's one of the reasons. That's why we have to prioritize that guy. So if you see me jumping down, freaking out over one tiny little robot, that's why.
Like
We're
I
gonna
said,
go.
foam has so many uses that like you can just use it for like almost whatever you want. If there's a trick in this game, it probably involves foam.
Yeah. That's why. So the no major glitches category is purely foamless, and that's basically it. You can do for the most part whatever you want. And that there may be, you know, one or two out of bounds things that you can't do, but the rest of it is literally just foam. So we're gonna wait for this elevator here for a second, and we get to see a whole bunch of those pesky vertical vent entrances that I was talking about before in this next segment. Okay. We're gonna do one quick pass through. It's kind of the enemy barracks. If you go slow, you can hear some interesting commentary about what it's actually like to be with the rebels. If I remember correctly, it's been a little while. But this is basically all their bunks and some equipment. But we're just gonna run up and shoot everyone. So, yeah. No dialogue. Just death.
Just death. Listen, death to the rebels. Right?
Yeah.
Rebel scum.
I mean, they are kind of trying to take down the entire country. So I feel like that's a reasonable interaction. They also... Sorry, I just realized I also kind of glossed over they killed the vice president. He's just gone now.
Yeah, the vice president was killed by these guys.
Yeah, bad. Another quick thin air warp. We're gonna... If you see me shooting foam, it's because Jason's generally going to zip somewhere around that direction. So that's where we're trying to clip into. Here we're mashing down to get a ground pound to clip us back into here because we're kind of in this weird in-between space where gravity is odd and you have to remind it that you want to go down. We're going to do some hyperspeed, get over this guy and kill everyone in the room, do another really annoying vent, and there's no one after me, right? And this isn't a marathon, so I can do risky stuff?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay.
If it's gonna be flashy, hell yeah.
Yeah. It's
if you didn't, I'd be offended.
well, it's another foam trick, but we might be there for a little bit and the camera might wig out, but I'll do my best to prevent it.
I believe in you.
All right. So some kind of slow backtracking here, a lot of vent movement. CC, do you want to tell me what you had for dinner today?
I had a buffalo ranch salad. It was delicious.
It's tasty.
Yeah. How about you? What did you have with your family dinner where you sat down with your mother and father and your family sat down, you ate a delicious dinner? What did you have?
My mom's actually out of town.
Okay, so you
yeah, we basically spaghetti. So this is another foam trick. It's very risky, but we're going to use it to zip up here and grab this item. Fair warning, the camera might wig out just a little bit. I have to wait for a secondary cooldown. I'm going to try and force it to work for me. Capitalism, baby. Great. No! Come on! We're trying to get it to... Okay, I'll try it once like this, but it's really difficult, and I just want it to stay in that spot. Grilled burgers, that sounds good. Okay, so, unfortunately, this little bar thing is going to trip us up a bunch, and sometimes if you get really lucky, you can just run forward and zip back. We basically want to do this movement, but down there. And if this all goes to shit and I can't get out, I have a safety save that we literally just got. We almost had it there. Ooh. It's very precise timing, and the fact that it uses a mouse really is frustrating. We almost had it there. If you hear me mashing my keyboard, it's because I'm mashing my keyboard. Shoutouts to PB and Pretzels real quick. He actually helped me lab this section a little bit. There's some weird shenanigan where I shot foam here and it teleported me into a really ideal spot, but it worked literally once, and I spent 2 hours trying to get it to happen again. And I'm actually just going to reload this because it's not worth doing it anymore. That's another FPS dependent section where the environment will literally just kind of change depending on how fast the game runs, but at least you got to see the cool trick. So... a lot of talking. Is there anything you'd like to add? You've been great so far.
Yeah, thank you. And you also have been great. This has been a really fun and interesting run, and I love this, and I'm glad that we get to show it off.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to push to have you in the marathon. And
Yeah, I wish
then-
the schedule was a little bit easier for me to get
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, it turns out you're gonna be traveling, except for like literally prime time on Monday, and it's
Yeah.
like, dude, that's already kind of full.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get it. Grab her.
so, it is unfortunate, but it's all right. We still get to show it off. This is why I like the Road to Speed Doxathon is that it's just that it's
Oh, yeah.
nice that we have some time leading up to the marathon. It's like, hey, listen, we can't get everything in the marathon, but there's some
So-
really cool ones we want to show off.
Really cool zip right there that we do to get around that. It's very free. You could buy the game, fire it up, and do it yourself. Anyone can do it. It's so easy. We're going to grab a quick safety save here, just to try and make things consistent. I should also mention that we're going to get an item here in a little bit that has potential to crash the game like a lot. We're going to use it basically every chance we get, and the game might crash. That's fine.
It
Okay.
does save all the time. So.
Alright, shoutouts to Lemon Chocobo for not moderating my chat and never having mod. There's oh, I totally forgot where I was for a second. A lot of those vertical sections look the same. We're gonna do a one and only hyperspeed trick where we conserve it and use very well-timed jumps to break that box and grab this passkey and also lose half our health to one heavy. That is a little bit of a nuanced movement. Just know that it is very cool. You should be posting Pog in the chat.
You better be. I better see some Pogs out there. Rebel scum. Also use Speedo Pog.
Okay, so really precise jump there to keep hyperspeed up here. It saves a lot of time. Very convenient save room. We're gonna go for a quick kill on this wheel boss. I'm actually gonna focus up for a little bit. It's a very specific setup. I totally shat the bed. I think I saved it. Okay. So normally it would already be dead, but we managed to do it within one cycle. That was actually a really great recovery. There's some residual slowdown there that we canceled with another ground pound. Here's the magical game-breaking hook shot. Very cool. Very unceremonious acquisition. And yeah, we just kind of zip around, and sometimes the game breaks. A lot. Especially if you do it in tiny, crowded spaces, but that's the most ideal time to use it. To save time when you're not crawling in tiny, crowded spaces. Yeah.
There's a lot of crawling in this game.
Yeah. So now we have all 4 sub-weapons. We don't have all the collectibles for it just yet, but we have access to all 4. Gonna do a little bit more cleanup. Oh, real quick, shoutouts to NWC90er. I really never understood his tag, but he ran this game for a little bit, did a couple hundo runs, and he lost 2 or 3 to this set of grenades right here. He got all the way to the end, spent a good 80 minutes of his life, and missed 1 grenade pack, and it wasn't valid. I've been there so many times. I just like to think about him every time I see that. Cool moment where the game didn't crash.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's always nice. It's always good.
Gonna use hyperspeed. I did not work. Sometimes you can run along this thing that we're climbing. It's very inconsistent and frustrating, and it usually bonks you out. But the good news is I totally missed it by miles, so it's fine. You don't have to look at my failure in that aspect. Some more item collection in this kind of starting area. This is the first and really only cavern section that you see. But this was the thing that we grabbed missiles in earlier. It was right after foam, just to kind of date the run. There's a little bit of backtracking. It's a Metroidvania. It's kind of expected. There's some... It's weird. The beginning of this run is really high octane. There's so much going on all the time. And then you have that really cool WSS. And then it just kind of devolves to a dick ton of backtracking.
Yeah, well, that's Metroidvania games for you.
Yeah. So...
One thing that you had said earlier that I wanted to kind of touch on was you said shoutouts to Greenalink. So this run has been shown off at like GDQ and stuff before, right? With or at least the original was.
The original, which is definitely a different game. Remastered came with some quality of life improvements and some minor tweaks that opened up new things. You could. I like to compare it to the difference between Ocarina of Time and Ocarina of Time 3D. Just with less heavy trying to eliminate all the fun stuff.
I gotcha. Okay.
Goddamn Funyuns go faster. I'm not cooking until after you run it. I'm hungry. All right, man.
All right, clock's ticking, man. People are hungry.
Yeah.
Don't disappoint now.
Also, shoutouts to Starlight, Super Viper, and Bowden, especially Bowden for that fat world record at the beginning of the day. You all had great runs today. Super Viper, that was some of the most, I don't know if you're here, that was some of the most engaging commentary that I have ever heard. I couldn't look away. Or I guess my ears couldn't.
Yeah, constantly going. Just like everything, every little bit had something to say, and it was really good. So, really good work from Viper. Bowden's run was also super interesting. Was not expecting that. I don't know. I'd never heard of this game before, and so he started playing. I was like, all right, what am I in for? And it turned out to be super cool.
Yeah, we just clipped into the background, by the way.
I know. And then Starlight, yeah, the Harry Potter run was also really cool. Again, I've only seen a little bit of some, old school Harry Potter speedrun stuff. I had not seen that game, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was really, really good and really interesting. And again, I also could not take my eyes off it. So, one of the cool things about doing our own marathon is that we get to vet who we show off, right? And that means that we get a chance to show some of stuff.
There's some funny stuff in the chat.
Okay.
Talking about eat the streamer out. Oh, I might die. That was actually just bad movement on my part. Got distracted.
Got over here reading chat too much.
Yeah.
Focus, streamer. Streamer wins world record.
Dude, I wish. Gorm 2K is such a fucking robot. Seriously, he went for so many. He just spent, I think, a week just straight grinding.
Sorry, you lagged out for a second and your screen went all crazy, but
are we all good?
You're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, Gorm 2K. Shoutouts to that Canadian robot who has just killed this category until I find something new. Or if anyone else wants to join the community, we have a very welcoming Discord. CC's in it too. You could go in there and ping him as much as you want.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, Schmeat. Shoutouts to Kevin. This is unfortunately one of the more dull sections until easily one of the most high tense, high stress moments in the entire run. So a little bipolar. If you have anything you'd like to talk about, now would be the time. Little ears? What?
I think it's like children. Little ears cover them.
Oh.
Earmuff. I don't know. I'm picking up what they're putting down. Is what I'm trying to do. Oh.
Okay. My hands are full, so I can't.
It's all good in the hood. Yeah. So what are some of the other categories in this game?
There's
popular or interesting.
There's any %, which is really interesting. You beat the game with just a flashlight, really. It's pretty intense. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've done any %. I'm pretty sure you use a flashlight and foam. It follows a pretty comparable route to what we've done so far, that early foam that we used before. There's no major glitches, which involves a lot of really cool stuff, a lot of movement-based tech because you aren't allowed to use foam. I'm going to take a safety save here because coming up is that high-stress part that I was talking about. There's fresh file categories that I think are really interesting and really challenging just from a mechanics standpoint. And I'm currently routing out and trying to figure out an all cutscenes category because some people in my chat mentioned that this game is very different when you actually watch the cutscenes. Now, we won't be watching the cutscenes in that category, but, you'll at least get to be around them all. So this is called Missile Puzzle. We're going to use a combination of things: foam to get around, Z slides to get in front of things, another Z slide to get behind it, and wow, I'm really happy that went well. So if you touch any of those lasers, you just die, and it's really easy to touch the lasers and die. That was actually very high stress, and I'm happy it went well. I'm going to shut up about Missile Puzzle. It was hard. You should clap. Doing some more item collection here. You can see everything around me wants to kill me.
So, if you had to put a number towards it, roughly what percentage of the way are you through with item collection specifically?
Well, we can actually take a second and
You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but you can if you like. I'm not. I just wanted to get like a rough estimate here because
there's another
we're
foam
now
turret.
50 minutes in and we're still doing item collection. I noticed that we're getting pretty high on the list there. I thought I saw like 17 out of 20 missiles, or I saw like 21 out of 30 grenades, 12 out of 20. We're definitely way past the halfway point. Would you say like 75% of the way through?
Maybe closer to 80. There's, I'd say, so this is what happens when you don't shoot it before and it does a weird sensor thing. If anyone wants to pause and look at that, that's how close we are. So 2/3, 3/5, 5/6, 4/5, and 5/8. Because we have so much mobility now, it's actually really easy to grab a lot of things very quickly. 50 minutes. I guess I spent a little too long kind of goofing off. So we might be 1 or 2 minutes over estimate, but that's fine. I'm just happy that we got the multi-shine kill. That was so cool. Here's another foam bomba turret thing that I'm very anxious of. I take enough damage killing that in the first place. Real quick, you can just kind of shove your gun through the wall. Pretty useful for making that more consistent. Normally you'd have to shoot a piece of foam from the underside here, shoot a grenade, wait for it to blow up. It does damage to you. It's a whole thing, but we can just kind of knock those two out from this side, or I guess now that side. I guess I don't know if sub-weapon item cooldown is really worth talking about. We're just gonna punch this guy because it's difficult to yeah, it's something you can do in this game. What's coming up? We have a couple of interesting thin air warps coming up. We have one of the most stressful fights in the room coming up that we're going to try and skip. That's a ninja. Ninjas are very tanky and very difficult to kill. It's actually very lucky. Really loud elevator. I'm used to that being very overpowering. I guess you could probably still hear me. Ninjas are very difficult to kill. They tend to just kind of eat your bullets and wait 2 or 3 seconds before they actually want to die. You mentioned earlier that we need a bunch of pass keys to get past a bunch of orange lasers. These are those orange lasers, and we're using our pass keys now to acquire something called the fusion helmet. The fusion helmet is really useful from a casual perspective, especially in that room I'm alluding to, because if you stand still, you glow and you take no damage. You'd think for something like insane mode, where you're very squishy all the time, that'd be great. But the problem is you're running around all the time and you can't really take advantage of it. It's also sort of controller specific because you can't walk slow. So I'm not sprinting right now, but I'm on keyboard and mouse and I can't get the effect because I'm moving too fast. I don't own an analog keyboard and I doubt this game would support it. So maybe a bit of an oversight there, but the rest of the game is still good.
There you go. There you have it.
This is the intended foam cutscene. Missed a guy there. We're going to use, similar to what we did for a gold bar a little while ago near the factory, we're going to use a piece of foam to help build momentum, get hyperspeed, and grab this item. This is actually a really convenient spot for me. I get to kind of stretch my fingers out. I spoke too soon, so that hasn't happened in months. Normally, I can just kind of stretch my fingers out here and get a 10-second break, which is huge, at least for me. But sometimes that bomba walks into you, and you just kind of get fucked.
Unfortunately.
You might notice these are very purpley. When you use foam, it stops things up. For whatever reason, these very large pistons generate power. Normally you would go through and break them all, and that's the first time I've seen that. And not ever, but a while ago. Grenade just kind of falling out of foam. But we don't want to go down there and break all these big pistons and do all this slow stuff, mess around with things that can one-shot you, because we're trying to go fast. This is a real quick MLG esports shot that I missed. We're trying to hit that from all the way down there.
Ooh, so close.
Yeah. Have some more hookshot shenanigans, hopefully. We can use that to force us into the crevice and still get a ground pound, which is a little strange. Some more factory stuff in here, and we're coming up on... we get introduced to this room, and we'll be coming back to it very shortly. Another shout-outs to NWC 90er. Not to bag on him too much, but he also forgot these gold bars at least twice. I promise we're a welcoming community. I don't embarrass everyone every time I get a platform.
Someone was asking, whenever you do those foam warps and it kind of glitches out for a little bit, is that lag? Is the game lagging because it's loading, or
Yes.
is that... Okay.
Yeah, you got
That's
it.
what I thought. There's a lot of things going on, but it's not like the stream is lagging. It's like the game itself is like trying to process everything, and so it like freezes for a second.
So this is a really stressful room because that guy, I'm going to call him Bart from now on, sometimes notices you. And he starts this really big cutscene, and it's a really annoying fight, and the backup sucks because it warps you into that room with all that fire earlier that was kind of nuking my health. Oh, by the way, we are about here right now. We just did a thin air warp. And you might notice that we're actually rendering a couple of frames and cells ahead of us. I don't know where I landed. I've never landed that far to the right before. We need to go back to the left. So yeah, that's a really cool thin air warp. Yeah, Bart can really suck.
Am I right? All right. Sorry.
So we're gonna head back over here for some item collection. We're gonna grab gold bars, some armor, a couple foam, some grenades, the last item in the game. And it all really comes to a beautiful head and some really cool fluid movement and a missed hook shot in a small crevice. And a missed quick release and another small crevice. Yeah. It's really satisfying, I think, to come in this stage of the run to come back in areas where you were just so impossibly easy to kill and just sort of holding W and not giving a fuck.
By the way, I just want to reiterate that Jason, our guy here, is just a guy. He's literally on a date with his girlfriend, I don't know. I guess girlfriend, right?
Yeah, he had some military training. His dad, that's one of the cutscenes that we skip when you grab the jetpack. He gets, actually no, it's the armor, so that big, when we cross the lake, there's a cutscene there that explains he has military background and blah blah blah, and how his dad wants him to join the army. Jason doesn't want to be a soldier. It's actually a really interesting overarching plot about how being a soldier isn't just about killing people. That's totally mutilated by the speedrun, because we don't get to learn any of it.
Unfortunate. He became a murder hornet, yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Goes in the hive and he just starts blasting people.
Washington is a typo. We're actually in Africa.
Okay.
I am Golem. Good point. So some hyperspeed shenanigans there. We go up here to grab, should be our last armor upgrade, and coming up is a really interesting hook shot shenanigan. We'll be grabbing an item as cutscene starts if my aim is good and if Jason complies. Having a brain fart for a second. I am going the wrong way.
It's not good. Don't go the wrong way. Go the right way.
I would have grabbed that and dropped back down. Yeah, this is right. This is right. Okay. I'm supposed to grab this first. My bad.
What are you doing, bud?
It's late game is kind of muscle memory, you know?
Yeah, I feel you. A lot of stuff going on. That's one of the hardest things about 100% categories like this, is you always gotta remember all the locations of everything.
Yeah, so we just kind of go into the foreground there and move around in the geometry and grab this second to last foam pack. And now, okay, so this is why I got ahead of myself. This is the cool hookshot thing that didn't work. You saw it hit the wall. I'm mad. All right, so you're supposed to grab onto the wall, and Jason does his little hanging animation, and you grab the foam, and it's really cool. You see the item grab animation as the cutscene starts, and you go so fast, and you don't have to do this really inconsistent backup because the geometry sucks, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. Oh, this is the helipad, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that. It's the thing where Claire gets taken back and you fight a heavy and a mech.
Yeah, this is supposed to happen like really early in the game, and we've been playing for an hour. Took a 40-minute detour before we saved Claire.
I missed one health upgrade. We're gonna take a second and figure that out. I think I know where it was. What is happening? Jason, my man.
My dude.
Okay, so we're gonna take a second and what's our time right now?
You're at 59:24.
Okay, so we might go like 5 or 6 minutes over estimate. I appear to have missed one health pack. We're gonna take a second and try to find it. Quick, everyone, find the question mark on your map.
Why did they steal yo girl? Is the question in chat. So just to reiterate for the he was horny on main. There you go. So to reiterate, your girlfriend is supposed to be
An anthropology student.
an anthropology student, and you get separated around this place, and then it turns out that she's actually a spy for what department?
The NSA. There are actually a couple times where during that reunion cutscene that we skip in that room that I keep referencing, she mentions, well, Jason says, we can't do that, we're not NSA, and she says, well, what does NSA look like? It's a really cool foreshadowing moment. So luckily I know right where to go, and it's actually very close by, so it's not a huge detour. I got a little, we get to do the really hard clip again, and I get to choke it with all the equipment. That does not make it easier. So right here is a health pack where if I hookshot it, it will crash the game like, immediately if I hookshot anywhere in there. And that's, I guess I was talking about crashing the game so much, I was super excited that I forgot to grab the health pack. So now we're on pace for 100%. I could do a quick background Z slide to get up there. We don't get to show that off, basically, ever. And I cannot get out this way. It's actually...
Never an anthropology student, no!
It's pretty interesting getting to do quick backtracks and reroutes on the fly and using overworld knowledge.
I agree.
Under pressure. I can't say I've had to do that too many times before. Usually if I don't have the items at the end, I just finish the run and accept that it's bunk.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely goes to show that having just crazy game knowledge is required to this category. Like you can't, I have played this game. I think I played through it like twice, and I did a couple of speedruns of without foam. But beyond that, it's been really, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to keep track of. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So,
Attention, all members of the restaurant.
this is Lucius.
This is Commander Lucius.
And this is the monster in the lake. I just wanted to show off why exactly the lake just kind of is not there anymore. I felt like that was a very drastic one that was worth pausing for. This is the final fight. We're gonna launch these 3, I don't know if they're nuclear, but I like to think they are, warheads at a big airship that you just saw kind of coming out of the ground, the lake. And things actually get, this is honestly one of the most peaceful parts of the entire run, because an entire mech can just shoot you point blank and you're fine. This is the fusion helmet at work, if you just stand still. We're launching these nice big missiles. Everything is impossibly loud and very difficult to navigate if you don't have your sight.
ship in the lake, ship in the lake, ship in the lake.
2 things happened there. We used foam to push Jason around to get a funny angle, and I pressed fire and exit, which is my E key, on the exact same frame. That lets me move during this cutscene. Using the 3rd missile tower like I did is a bit more consistent. I won't be going for it on the 2nd one because it can lock the camera. Okay, that's whatever. And it just makes it a little more tedious to finish the game. A couple big explosions and slowdowns coming. I'm gonna try and time. With the ground pound, I'm realizing now you all can probably still hear me, but my headphones are so loud, it's just tough to really gauge it. We are coming up on time when I fire this 3rd missile. I'm going to show off the map right beforehand just to give you an idea of the whole space that we covered. But here in just a second. So real quick, big map. We kind of went all over. Very cool. Time in 3, 2, 1, time.
By the way, your estimate was an hour 10.
Oh,
so
good.
You're an hour 3, which means you're 10 minutes under estimate, or 7 minutes under estimate. So.
Okay. A lot of talking.
Even overestimate, dude.
Let's go. That's about 10 minutes slower than my PB, which is what I expected. for all the stopping and the backtrack that I had to do.
Hell
I
yeah.
really appreciate everyone hanging out. Big shout outs to Lemon Chocobo for pinging the shit out of everyone and being so supportive and making a big deal about this. Here's the big climactic ending, by the way. I don't want to talk over this.
Who the hell are you?
Jason Fleming. I'm no one. And everyone.
The Restoration will hunt you down and kill you. Your loved ones, those you hold most dear, everyone you've ever known.
Shout outs to Dark Sandman.
Couldn't let you kill a man in cold blood, Jason. Wouldn't have been fair to you.
Cutscene's so weird in the gold
You knew
armor.
about this all along, didn't you? You're a spy.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I ran local background checks to see who I could bring with me to serve as cover. You were perfect.
Why wouldn't you just bring another agent? That's crazy.
Because the Restoration has moles everywhere. Anonymity was the only way.
So everything you told me when we met, it's just a lie.
Not everything. You really do have nice eyes. All right, it's time to go. We have a lot of questions for you.
Who are you?
Remember
Nice
when I asked you what
eyes, yeah.
NSA looks like? Well, now you know. Maybe.
So, that's the big cap on this. There's a glaring plot hole in this game that I won't point out, but some of you watching may have noticed. If not, I recommend playing through it and thinking about the game a little bit. It's pretty interesting, and it puts it in a different light. To resume what I was saying before, I really appreciate everyone coming out today. Big shout outs to SDAT and the Road to SDAT, CC and CJ. You guys are great. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been outstanding. It's a really great chance to being able to talk about what you're doing while you're doing it is a lot harder than it may look. I really appreciate the opportunity to try and get good at this. Enjoy, I guess, Jason's underpants. That usually doesn't show up. I guess I was a little slow. But we officially have 100% completed the entire game on Insane. Technically, we changed the difficulty for a second so I could see what happened, but, you know, it's fine. That is Shadow Complex Remastered, New Game Plus, 100% Insane. Thank you so much. That's all I have, unless if you have anything for me.